Well, I wrote this song for the Christian youth. I want to teach kids the Christian truth. If you want to reach those kids on the street, then you gotta do a rap to a hip-hop beat. So I gave my sermon an urban kick. My rhymes are fly, my beats are sick. My crew is big and it keeps getting bigger. That's 'cause Jesus Christ is my...
Oh wait, crap, Lynn.
Do you know who we are, Sanjay? Do you know what this is? You know what topic we choose?
Black people.
Yeah.
Welcome everyone. Today we have a special report today. We're going to be talking about black culture. Black culture is very rich and historic in America. We all know about the transatlantic slave trade where Africans are kidnapped from their homes and taken to America forcefully. Many of us don't actually know that slavery almost ended early in American history. But due to the invention of the cotton gin, the demand for slaves increased. During the time of slavery, you may think that not much happened during black culture, but you guys know about Jack Daniel's whiskey? So Jack Daniel was a slave owner, but the one who taught him how to make whiskey was his slave, Nearest Green. During the times of slavery, slaves had to rebel against the state in order to gain their own freedom. Many of them moved north in the Underground Railroad, and people from the Underground Railroad would include Harriet Tubman. She not only freed herself, but came back to free her own family and many more slaves. At the end of the Civil War, slavery ended, but during it, there's still much history we should know. In the Civil War, the North fought against the Southern slave states, and they would employ black soldiers in order for them to gain their own freedom. Late throughout the war, it's surprising to hear that the South even tried to include black soldiers into their army, but they didn't have the time to. The end of the Civil War marked a freedom from slavery for many in the South, but it wasn't the end of the struggles of black Americans. Black Americans had to face many issues, including segregation and Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws prohibited black citizens from voting. Groups like the KKK would also enforce their own will on people. They would burn crosses. You know, everyone knows what the KKK is. It really isn't that complicated. You know, they go around, burn crosses in people's lawns, scare them, kill a couple. It's pretty bad. During this time, the women's rights movement was at large. Prominent figure Ida B. Wells. Well, a story about her is that she was fighting for the right to vote, right? But the people she was fighting with were white women, right? And so what happened was that they wanted her there, but they wanted to segregate her. So, you know, they're fighting for equal rights, but not being equal, which doesn't make sense, right? And she told them like, hey, I'm fighting for equal rights. I'm going to stand beside you, but I'm not going to stand with you at all. There was a historic case during this time too, which was Plessy versus Ferguson, right? So Plessy versus Ferguson basically established separate but equal. What happened was that Plessy looked like a white man, but he was actually 1/8 black. But you know, the U.S. government decided their stance on this was if you're 1/8 black, you belong in the back. And so he was forced out of the bus and went to jail. This is where separate and equal was established. And we all know today that that wasn't truly equal. During the World Wars is a very interesting history for black Americans. So, World War I, blacks weren't allowed to fight together with white soldiers, right? They were segregated even in the army. But it doesn't make sense. Anyways, there was a prominent group of black fighters though. The Harlem Hellfighters fought in France, and they were very notorious in France. They were considered really good at what they did. And what they did was kill, you know, Germans. This wasn't the end for black soldiers' struggle to serve. The Tuskegee Airmen were formed during World War II. They were the first black Air Force unit. During their time in training, there was a report filed by the U.S. government that they decided that black soldiers weren't fit for aerial combat. They said in the report that African Americans' brains are too small to handle the G-forces of planes. They're considered cowards by the military. But these men considered the struggle to fight, and they served excellently in the European theater. They actually were responsible for one of the raids that led up to Normandy, which is what led up to the end of World War II. Well, World War II in Europe. So civil rights movement, we got very prominent figures in history. You got Rosa Parks, you got Malcolm X, and you got Martin Luther King Jr. Funny story about Martin Luther King Jr., right? Is the FBI, they released some reports later in that time, like in the 90s or something, where they wanted him to stop. They sent him a letter saying, please kill yourself, because they considered him a threat to American society, and all he was trying to do is fight for equality, right? Martin Luther King fought for the Civil Rights Movement, which led to the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Fair Housing Act of 1968.
Alright guys, my name is Cody Wynn, and today we are reporting about African Americans. The topic for today is music. Music was very prominent during the Harlem Renaissance because it gave black people a platform to express themselves through their struggles. Some prominent figures include Langston Hughes and Benny King. Benny King, for example, was relocated to Harlem with his family, and he joined a group called the Five Crowns at the age of 20. He was chosen by a manager to assume a lead role in an R&B group, the Drifters. The Drifters netted a few hits with King in the lead. They never had a consistent lineup of singers. It was always on and off, and they were mismanaged. But King opted to go solo in the early 60s. This was also the period where the singer took the King stage name. Going solo proved to be the right choice, as songs like Spanish Harlem and the timeless Stand By Me became his signature hits. Stand By Me has spread all of the culture since its 1961 release, inspiring covers from people as diverse as John Lennon, Muhammad Ali, and the author Stephen King. He also wrote a story about the hit film that shares the song's name. Not it, but yeah.
Alright, next topic, blues. Alright, we're gonna talk about B.B. King. So, B.B. King was defined blues for worldwide audience. B.B. King, one of the most talented and celebrated electric blues artists of the late 20th century. He recorded more than 90 to 100 blues albums over the course of his singing career, and is also known for refining electric blues more than any other blues artist. Yeah. Alright, Buddy Guy. Buddy Guy was born to a sharecropping family, just like B.B. King. He was born in Louisiana, Lettsworth. He first started learning to play guitar by a homemade two-string diddly bow before getting a harmony acoustic guitar. So, being good friends with B.B. King, B.B. King inducted Buddy Guy into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2005.
Hello, testing? Okay. Number 3, pop music. For pop, we have Prince. Prince's influence and inspiration transcends generations. Prince took fashion to a whole new level with magnificent outfits like no other. His fashionable suits, hairstyles, and perfectly winged eyeliner left everyone in awe. He did not fall into any gender stereotypes at all. He went outside of the box, such as changing his stage name to a symbol with no pronunciation, and expressed himself through music, fashion, and love.
Alright, next we have Michael Jackson. So Michael Jackson, when we think Michael Jackson, we think of his high-pitched squeaks, his twirls, his moonwalks, and his crouch grabs. And the impact songs that changed music forever. So his marks on the industry alone is enough to make him a legend. But that's not all people remember him for. In addition to changing music forever, Michael Jackson changed us forever. He shed light on world issues such as climate change. He donated to organizations that support AIDS and cancer research. He supports causes like the United Nations High Commission for Refugees.
And that's for rap. We have the Notorious B.I.G.
Christopher George Lator Wallace, popularly known as Biggie Smalls, Big Papa, and Black Frank White, and his primary stage name, the Notorious B.I.G., is one of the greatest, some would argue he's the greatest and most influential rapper of all time, including a classic of our generation, Life After Death. His life story was no fairy tale. In fact, it was short-lived, marked by poverty, hustling, violence, glamour, controversy, and finally tragedy.
Very sad.
The next rapper on our list is Tupac Shakur, who Nikki Giovanni, an influential African-American poet, admires greatly. Tupac Shakur, like the Notorious B.I.G., lived in poverty and often spoke about the struggles faced by the Black community.
Tupac has had many hit singles. One was called All Eyes on Me, which was the name of the biopic about Tupac. Other songs include Me Against the World, Dear Mama, Me Against the World. Yeah, that's about it. Welcome back, Pedro. He had a really very tough breakfast, but he has returned.
Alright, we're gonna talk about rock now. Let's talk about Jimi Hendrix. So Hendrix was born in Seattle. So the man will later be defined as rock's greatest guitarist. So he had a turbulent childhood marked by frequent moves, emotional and perhaps physical abuse, and the death of his mother when he was just 15. It was at the same age that Hendrix began teaching himself to play a $5 acoustic guitar on the left hand, graduating to an electric one in a year. Hendrix crafted music that contained entire worlds. Listening to it is an experience that remains vital and dynamic to this day.
Okay, on to the next topic, R&B with James Brown.
James Brown, the godfather of soul, is a legend that provided inspiration for many musical genres of today. Though his roots lie in the gospel, Brown's work, often described as funk, R&B, soul, remains at the forefront of every musical genre. Brown used his music to break boundaries of racial segregation that enveloped the United States in the 1950s. Both blacks and whites became engrossed in the music phenomena, a sound once considered strictly black music. Brown proved to be one of the most important black people of the 50s and 70s. His words alone could spark social unrest, as in the 1958 racial riots. He continued speaking against racism, sexism, and the need for improved education until his death on Christmas Day 2006. James Brown, a musical icon, was also a servant leader who was committed to giving back to others.
On to current times, we have Kendrick Lamar for rap. Recently, his latest album, Damn, just made Pulitzer Prize history. The album, along with To Pimp a Butterfly, enriched in the examination of social issues, black pride, and black excellence in America today. It makes Lamar the first rapper to win the Pulitzer Prize and the first non-classical, non-jazz album to be awarded the honor. Now on to Varsity Media to conclude this act.
The struggle of blackness in a world that was dominated by whiteness and white music is often overlooked by the prevalence of black music today. It's far too easy to forget the fight and the endurance that African Americans undertook in order to reach the position that they are in today. It's easy to forget the norms of music that we see today are not those that have existed for past generations. Beginning its origin in black chants and hymns that started during slavery as a means to cope with the inhuman conditions that they faced, music has continued to be an instrumental agent in the proliferation of black ideologies and freedom. Music has been a means for the black civil rights movement as well as the black feminist movement to gain traction. Through important black thinkers such as James Baldwin and Nikki Giovanni, and important black musicians such as Kendrick Lamar, and the blues singer Ray Charles, African Americans have endured and surpassed all obstacles that were placed in front of them. Through slavery, discrimination, and segregation, they have persevered and demonstrated that through all adversity, love can persist. However, the black struggle for equality is not yet over. Current issues such as police brutality and discrimination against black, non-binary people are still fervent, though current African American leaders are rising to oppose this hatred.
No walls,
That's the end of everything.
Alright guys,
That's the
I'm
end.
gonna go home. I think